Peacemaker episode 3 shows a dimension where Chris is celebrated as a hero, has his brother back, and even has a real shot with Emilia Harcourt. But is this a reality that's hiding something dark and mysterious, and can he ever leave it behind? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, my name is Trey. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review episode 3 of season 2 of Peacemaker that released last night on HBO Max. And in my opinion, even with the shorter runtime, it is the strongest episode yet of the season. The pacing was tight, it balanced action, humor, emotional stakes. James Gunn did a lot with so little in this episode, and I was really impressed. And a question we'll get to, because on the surface it seems like this reality is everything that Chris wants it to be. And we'll get to a conversation here in a moment of, is that too good to be true? Is there something dark and mysterious or something going on behind the scenes here that's really going to blow this whole thing up? So just a quick recap, the events of the episode pick up right after last week, where Chris goes into this new dimension, and we spend most of the episode there where he is interacting with his brother Keith, with Emilia Harcourt, that universe's Emilia Harcourt, and we see him experience this lifestyle for the first time of being celebrated, of being a hero, people actually loving him and wanting to be around him. But before even that, we get a big cameo, a big reveal that Rick Flag Jr. is alive in this universe still. I think a lot of people online thought he could be back in this season, especially with the title of this episode having his name in it. But it was really cool to see Joel back in this role and kind of establish a little bit of retcon of sorts with him and Harcourt having some sort of history 3 years ago, so prior to the events of the Suicide Squad. So it was really interesting to see them introduce that, and I wonder if that's going to have some ramifications going forward in this season of why in Chris's real universe, while Emilia Harcourt is as rigid and rough and tough towards him than this other version that we see in this universe that he's in. But the episode cuts back and forth between Chris in this dimension and in his home dimension, and his friends are recovering of sorts from their party the night before, and we see a really good conversation between Adebayo and Emilia about her future with Chris, and her pushing Emilia and saying, hey, why aren't you pursuing a relationship with him? He is going to be good for you. And you can tell that she not only is hiding the fact that they did have some sort of hookup a couple weeks prior, but again, that there might be something more there that is holding her back from pursuing a full relationship with Chris. And again, I wonder if the Rick Flag Jr. connection is going to have some sort of big play in that. In the alternate dimension, Chris stops an attack from happening, and he gets to fully embrace that hero lifestyle, something he desperately wants. And the episode ends with him returning back to the dimension after having a really good conversation with Emilia Harcourt in that world about potentially rekindling their relationship there. Again, a very interesting dynamic, considering that he is not the real Chris she thinks he is, but nonetheless something he desperately wants. And he returns home when he doesn't know that Argus is going to be at his doorstep in just seconds, trying to take away his portal access to this dimension. I think it's important that we ask ourselves, is this dimension all it's really cracked up to be? And we can see the lure of why Chris wants to be there. You know, again, he's celebrated as a hero. He's driving his peace cycle through the streets and people are excited to see him. He's a hero, and he might be actually one of the only few heroes in that dimension. I think it seems clear to me that him, his brother, and his dad might be the only 3 sort of superhero figures in that world, as they kind of rely on them heavily to save them from threats. It doesn't seem like there's any other metahumans in this universe. He is celebrated as a hero. He has an actual relationship with his brother, and what you can tell in this world has been developed and that they've gone through it. We learn that the Chris in that dimension had a struggle in the past with drug addiction. We see an earnest care from Keith of Chris in his current state. And so you can tell that there's been a deep bond there between the two brothers, especially towards the end of the episode when they have a really good heart-to-heart where Chris says, I missed you, and Keith's like, I've always been here, I'm always going to be here, I'm always going to be your big brother, which is a really touching moment. And so that is alluring to him, as well as, again, this real shot that he has with Emilia Harcourt. You can tell that there is a deep past between those two characters, and in seeing him communicate things of what he's experienced in his own world to her, that she has some relatability to, maybe in a different way from her, Chris, you can definitely tell why Chris might want to be here. It seems like there might be something dark going on under the surface. Again, there's going to be some crack that's going to be exposed, and I think it's going to really shatter us in a lot of ways. I think that there's going to be something dark and mysterious about this place, especially with his dad being the blue dragon here with the red dragon. You got to believe that there might be some sort of elements to his character in season 1 that maybe carried over into this alternate dimension. And so I know a popular theory online is that maybe the racism is very heavily in this dimension, considering that was a big character element of Augie, his dad, in season 1, which would be devastating. And, you know, looking back to the episode, there might be some of that there under the surface that we just aren't seeing, especially when we first see Augie in this dimension. In his first appearance, he makes some sort of slur towards a group of people. And so could that be what's going on? Or is it something even more sinister? A theory I have is that maybe that these three are responsible sorts for them being the only sort of superheroes in their universe. Maybe they did something sinister to other potential metahumans or even killed them off. I don't know. But again, I think that we need to be on edge and have our guard up a little bit, that this universe isn't all it's cracked up to be. And there's going to be something that's probably going to hurt us in a lot of ways, especially if we see Chris continue to be in this place, continue to develop relationships with these people that he wants to develop relationships with in such a bad way, that he wants to experience the good that he's never had in his life. I think it's going to set us up for something tragic, and it's going to hurt a lot. I just wanted to give a shout out again to John Cena, who is just continuing to act his butt off this season. Every little thing he does, the little details, he has grown so much in this season. And just seeing the little details of his conversations with Keith, with Emilia, and even his little back and forth with Rick Flag Jr. at Argus in that dimension. He's just doing so much with so little, and he's just done a tremendous job, and he deserves all the praise that he's getting because he's crushing it. My other shout out this episode was with Jennifer Holland. She was tasked with playing a completely different version of this character, and to see her go from this hard exterior, this tough version of Harcourt and Chris's actual world, to this softer, more emotional, more loving and caring version of the character in the second dimension was absolutely insane. She crushed it. She's got great range, and so I was really impressed with what she brought to this episode, because as the audience watching this, it was really believable. This is how this character has been this whole time, and so it was really good. She did a great job, and again, I'm curious and excited to see how that continues to develop further into the season, especially as it seems like they're going to rekindle that relationship potentially. As we go forward this season, I think a question we ask ourselves is, how is Chris going to respond to being tempted by these strong internal desires that he has to be loved, to be celebrated, to have actual meaningful relationships? And does that make it difficult for him to ultimately leave this world? Or once he does realize what it is that causes this dimension to be not ideal, is that going to cause further strain for him as he is experiencing good things despite that? What sacrifices is he going to be willing to make for his own happiness? What is he willing to do? Is he willing to cut his losses and just hang out here, knowing that there's going to be something wrong inevitably? Or is he going to sacrifice the good experience that he's had and go back to his own world where he is seen more as a villain and has a threat of prison time over his head because of access to this portal? And so I just love the internal conflict that James Gunn has set up here, especially us as the audience too, who've really fallen in love with this character and want the best for him, and us too having to make a decision of what we want to see, what we want to support. And so I just love the complexity of that, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out. What did you think of episode 3 of Peacemaker season 2? Drop your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe for more content, guys, and thanks for tuning in.